How much money can I make in 1 hour, starting completely from zero with no money, tools or armor? Well, let's find out. First, we have to RTP. Luckily, we teleported right next to spruce forest. There's a hole here, but before we check what's down there, let's grab some wood. Now that we have some, we can craft basic tools and drop down to see what's inside. It's a cave. Perfect. This is gonna be helpful. We can start mining copper to make our first money. But the two most important things we need from this cave are coal and iron ore, because we will need an iron axe and later an iron shovel. Here's some coal. This should be enough. And some iron too. I only need about 8 iron ingots, so I crafted 2 furnaces and smelted the raw iron. I ended up with 2 iron axes and 14 extra iron ingots, which we will use later. Now that we have everything we need, I RTP'd again and once again got lucky. I spawned next to the forest, which is perfect. You will see why in a moment. Basically, we need to chop down as many trees as we can. And no, we're not selling logs or planks. Instead, let's figure out which items are made only from wood and are selling for good prices on the auction house. Turns out, composters are a great item to sell. I think we can also add chests to that and focus only on these 2 items for now. So let's start crafting chests and composters. Let's list composters for about 19k and chests for 8k each. And someone already bought our 2 chests, so that's a good sign. We got our first 70k and it only took 10 minutes and 30 seconds to get here. Alright, let's keep crafting and selling more chests, and people are buying them like crazy. I don't understand why people, instead of buying planks or logs and turning them into the items they need, like composters or chests, prefer to buy ready items. I have no idea. I guess they are just rich and yeah. We also got our first composter cell, so let's put a few more on the auction house. Now it's time to cut down more trees. I'm starting to get low on hunger, so I invested in some chicken to avoid starving. In the meantime, I noticed that people stopped buying our chests. I checked auction house and unfortunately saw that their price dropped by 50%. So I relisted all my chests for 4k each, and that pretty much solved the problem because they started selling fast again. In just 14 minutes I made my first 100k. Since it was getting dark and I'm not a fan of creepers, I locked myself in an abandoned villager house and continued selling from there. I also considered selling stairs but decided against it. It would take too long to gather the wood needed for 1 stack. So I kept focusing on chests, composters and gathering wood. And by the 22-minute mark we were already over 300k. Let's go! Then I noticed trapdoors, doors and fences and decided to sell them too, since they're cheap to craft and we're also in this village. Trust me, this turned out to be the best decision I made in this entire video. I started by selling 2 trapdoors for 13k, then listed 12 fences for 25k and added 2 doors, one for 10k and the other one for 9k. So now I was selling 5 different items. At this point I felt unstoppable. I knew I was gonna hit over 1 million and oh boy, I was right. I made my first trapdoor sale and seconds later my first fence sale. Selling 12 fences is a game changer. Just 48 fences makes you around 100k and that's insane. So I went and collected all the fences I could find in this raided village. At the 34-minute mark we were already at 70k. Feeling so confident, I started looking for a desert or a beach to gather sand so I could sell it on slash orders and make even more money. And there it was, not too far from the village. Then, out of nowhere, one guy bought all my composters at once, giving me 200k in under a minute. Let's go, we were so close to 1 million and still had around 23 minutes left. Later, I thought about selling kelp on slash orders since we had an ocean nearby, but I couldn't find any kelp in the water, so I gave up on that idea and went back to the beach. Then suddenly I started having Wi-Fi issues. But to make it fair, every time Minecraft lagged, I passed the timer since I couldn't even open the auction house. Eventually, I sold a few more trapdoors and boom! We hit 1 million in just 41 minutes of this challenge. Now we could add selling sand to our money making strategy, so I started collecting some. After gathering a few stacks, I searched for a good offer on /orders and sold one sand block for $57. Now I can explain why I'm able to make so much money on the server. Look, most people on this server are lazy. I'm not necessarily talking about you, there's a good chance you're not lazy at all, but I'm speaking in general. They prefer to buy ready-made trapdoors instead of buying logs, turning them into planks and then crafting trapdoors themselves. This gives me a huge advantage. I can buy logs for 10 or 11k, craft 2 trapdoors and already make a profit by selling them for 13k. And the same logic applies to doors, fences, chests and composters. Instead of gathering wood and spending a few seconds crafting, people just buy the finished items. And that's it. Now let's get back to the video. Then I crafted more trapdoors, fences and doors because people were buying them like crazy. I also noticed that selling 2 doors for 10k is a pretty solid option. They were getting picked up really quickly. Unfortunately, I had to rejoin the server a few times due to connection problems. I couldn't even collect sand properly and it was really starting to piss me off, man. Anyway, after 57 minutes of playtime, I had made 1.5 mil. But then internet issues got even worse. And I spent the last 10 minutes trying to rejoin and to log back on the DrDonut. But luckily I managed to log back. I sold every item in my inventory and everything still sitting on the auction house. And in total I made 1.73 million in just 1 hour. Guys, starting completely from scratch. Look, you don't even need farms to get rich on this server. Just a little knowledge and just using your brain. Guys, it's this simple. By the way, here's the proof that I spent actually only 1 hour on this challenge. The timeline shows 1 hour and 13 minutes, but this 13 minutes is the time I spent on trying to log back on the DrDonut after not being able to use auction house or even sell sand because of my connection issues. Anyway, that's all for today's video. I hope you liked it. Subscribe and like for more videos like this one. And of course, have a great day. Ciao!